Welcome back, listeners, to another deep dive. And today we're going way back to 2021, a year that sent shockwaves through the gaming world. We're talking about Microsoft dropping a cool $7.5 billion to acquire ZeniMax Media.
Yeah, a huge deal, even for a tech giant like Microsoft. Now, whether you're a die-hard gamer or someone who just casually picks up a controller now and then, this acquisition probably has some implications for you.
You hit the nail on the head there. And when we say ZeniMax, what immediately springs to mind? Bethesda Softworks, of course. I mean, we're talking about legendary game developers here.
Absolutely, the creators of some of the most iconic and influential game franchises out there.
Exactly. We're talking about those sprawling open worlds of the Elder Scrolls, that post-apocalyptic world of Fallout, the adrenaline-pumping action of Doom. Oh, and let's not forget the alternate history thrills of Wolfenstein.
Right, these aren't just games, they're cultural phenomena. So naturally, when Microsoft shelled out that $7.5 billion, it sent ripples throughout the industry and had everyone asking why. Good question. I mean, what was Microsoft's game plan? What were they hoping to achieve with this massive acquisition? And what does this tell us about the state of the gaming industry, both back then and looking ahead?
That's what we're here to unpack today. In this deep dive, we're going to explore the motivations behind this acquisition, its immediate impact, and its long-term implications. And to guide us, we'll be drawing insights from a pretty fascinating market research report that was published in February of this year, 2025.
Yeah, this report gives us a great perspective looking back at this major event and really seeing how things have unfolded.
So let's start by digging into the why. Why did Microsoft feel the need to spend such a colossal sum to acquire ZeniMax? What were they really after?
Well, the report highlights a few key drivers. And one of the biggest ones, and this directly affects anyone who plays games, was Microsoft's desire to really beef up their gaming portfolio. And by that, I mean gaining control over those massively popular Bethesda franchises.
And that makes sense. When you think about it, in the world of gaming, exclusive content is a pretty big deal, right?
Oh, it's huge. It's often the deciding factor in why someone might choose an Xbox over, say, a PlayStation or vice versa.
Exactly. So by bringing ZeniMax into the fold, Microsoft essentially secured a treasure trove of highly successful game franchises, instantly boosting the attractiveness of the Xbox platform, particularly their Game Pass service.
And that brings us to another major point the report emphasizes, the strengthening of Xbox Game Pass. Now, for any listeners who might not be familiar with Game Pass, it's basically Microsoft's subscription service where you pay a monthly fee and in return you get access to a massive library of games.
It's kind of like Netflix, but for video games.
Exactly. And here's where things get really interesting. The report really underscores how adding Bethesda's games, these critically acclaimed titles, to Game Pass from day one was a major strategic play. Think about it. You get access to the latest Elder Scrolls or Fallout game as part of your subscription. That's huge value.
It definitely makes Game Pass a much more tempting offer, especially for gamers who are looking for a cost-effective way to experience a wide variety of high-quality games.
Right. You're not shelling out $60 for each new release. You get them as part of your subscription. And that's powerful. But it goes even deeper than that. The report also points to the future of gaming, specifically cloud gaming, which Microsoft is calling xCloud.
Ah, yes, cloud gaming. The idea of playing high-end games on practically any device without needing a powerful console.
That's it. And by bringing Bethesda's games onto their cloud platform, Microsoft is essentially creating the potential for you to play those massive open-world RPGs, those intense first-person shooters on your phone, your tablet, your smart TV, basically anywhere you have a decent internet connection.
That kind of flexibility and accessibility is a game changer, and it represents a pretty significant shift in how we consume and experience games, and it aligns perfectly with Bethesda's strengths.
Exactly. Bethesda is renowned for creating these immersive open-world experiences, these action-packed first-person shooters. And Microsoft, well, they clearly saw the value in bringing that expertise, those talented development teams, into their own ecosystem.
It was about more than just acquiring popular games. It was about acquiring the creative minds behind those games. But, and this is an important point, it wasn't just a gut feeling. Microsoft didn't just throw money as a problem.
This is not at all. The report makes it clear that extensive market research played a crucial role in this decision. I mean, we're talking about a multi-billion-dollar investment here. You don't just do that on a whim.
So what did that research reveal? What insights from that report really stand out to you?
Well, for me, it's the sheer size and the continued growth of the gaming industry that's truly remarkable. I mean, projections suggesting the market would exceed $200 billion by the mid-2020s. That's staggering.
It really highlights how gaming has become a mainstream form of entertainment, right? It's not just a niche hobby anymore.
Absolutely. And that kind of growth naturally attracts big players like Microsoft who are looking to invest in, to capitalize on those opportunities. But digging deeper, the market research specifically highlighted the profitability of certain genres, the very genre that Bethesda excels in.
RPGs and first-person shooters.
Exactly. The report cites phenomenal sales figures for franchises like The Elder Scrolls and Fallout, with tens of millions of copies sold and billions of dollars in revenue generated. That's a clear indication of the value associated with those types of games.
And it wasn't just about past successes. The market research also pointed to a growing trend, the shift towards digital distribution and, as we've talked about, cloud-based gaming experiences.
Right. And Microsoft, they've been investing heavily in cloud gaming technology. So having a content powerhouse like Bethesda, well, it positions them to really capitalize on that shift.
Yeah.
They're basically thinking long-term here, looking to the future where you can seamlessly stream those vast Bethesda game worlds to any device you own.
It's a smart move. But the research also highlights another key insight that influenced Microsoft's decision. They were keenly aware of Sony's success in the gaming sector. And a lot of that success can be attributed to Sony's strong portfolio of exclusive games.
Yeah, Sony had a real knack for securing those must-have titles that you could only play on PlayStation. And Microsoft recognized that to truly compete, they needed to bolster their own lineup of exclusives.
The acquisition of ZeniMax, then, was a direct response to that competitive pressure, a move to level the playing field, so to speak.
Exactly. But of course, a deal of this magnitude doesn't just happen overnight. There are regulatory hurdles to overcome, and the report details those as well.
What were some of those hurdles from a regulatory standpoint?
Well, anytime you have an acquisition of this size, it's going to attract the attention of regulators who are tasked with ensuring fair competition. And the report specifically mentions the antitrust review that was conducted by the European Commission. Now, despite the scale of the acquisition, the Commission ultimately gave its approval in March of 2021.
So they didn't see it as a threat to competition.
Not a major one, no. Their determination was that the gaming industry was still sufficiently competitive with other strong players in the market.
But not everyone was thrilled about the deal, right? The report mentions that Sony in particular voiced some concerns.
Oh yeah, Sony wasn't exactly happy about it. Understandably, they were worried about the potential for Microsoft to make future Bethesda games exclusive to Xbox and PC. Their main concern was that this exclusivity would limit consumer choice and give Microsoft an unfair advantage.
Essentially, they didn't want PlayStation users to miss out on some of gaming's most beloved franchises.
Right. They were concerned about losing access to those highly anticipated titles. And the gaming community at large, well, their reactions were mixed, as you might expect.
Yeah, you had Xbox players who were thrilled about the prospect of getting all those Bethesda games on Game Pass. And then you had PlayStation players who were understandably worried about potentially losing access to some of their favorite games.
It was a real mixed bag of emotions out there. Some were excited, some were apprehensive, but the report does clarify Microsoft's official stance on the exclusivity issue.
Yeah, they confirmed that while they would honor existing agreements for games already announced for PlayStation, they did intend to make some, if not all, future Bethesda titles exclusive to Xbox and PC.
Which basically solidified their strategy of using these big acquisitions to drive sales of their hardware and their Game Pass service. They were making a clear play to be a dominant force in the console market.
So looking back from 2025, how has this all played out? What's been the lasting impact of this acquisition?
Well, the most immediate impact, as the report highlights, was the integration of ZeniMax Media, including Bethesda, into Microsoft's Xbox Game Studios division. And as promised, a lot of Bethesda's back catalog of games, titles like Skyrim, Fallout 4, Doom Eternal, they all landed on Game Pass.
Which really solidified that image of Game Pass as the Netflix of gaming, right? A huge library of games for a relatively low monthly price.
Exactly. And in terms of long-term implications, while it's still a bit early to say for sure, the report suggests that we can expect to see the benefits in terms of game development potential.
Meaning, with Microsoft's resources behind them, Bethesda can create even bigger and more ambitious games.
Right. We might see future titles with more expansive worlds, higher production values, and more innovative features. But the report also places this acquisition within a broader context. It points to a growing trend of consolidation within the gaming industry.
We're seeing more and more of these big acquisitions, right? It's not just Microsoft.
Exactly. The report specifically mentions Sony's acquisition of Bungie, the creators of Destiny, which can be seen as a response to Microsoft's move with ZeniMax. These industry giants are all vying for control over valuable intellectual property, trying to create more appealing ecosystems to attract and retain players.
And it all comes back to those subscription-based models and the rise of cloud gaming, doesn't it?
Absolutely. By building a robust library of exclusive content through these acquisitions, Microsoft makes their Game Pass service more attractive. And their investment in cloud gaming means that they can deliver that content to a wider audience across more devices as cloud gaming becomes more mainstream.
So, as we wrap things up here, what are the key takeaways from Microsoft's acquisition of ZeniMax Media, in your view?
Well, according to the report, it was a very strategic move driven by a few key objectives: acquiring valuable game franchises, strengthening Xbox Game Pass, and positioning themselves for the future of cloud gaming. And all of this was heavily informed by thorough market research.
It's a fascinating case study, really. It shows the complex interplay of business strategy, market trends, and the evolving ways in which we experience video games.
It definitely makes you think about the future. Like, what other acquisitions or shifts might we see in the gaming landscape? And how will those changes affect how we play and enjoy games?
It's a question worth pondering. The balance between exclusive content and wider accessibility is a constant tension in the gaming world. And as listeners, as consumers, we're all part of that dynamic. So we'll have to see how things continue to unfold.
Absolutely. The gaming industry is constantly evolving. It'll be interesting to see what the future holds.
For sure. And for all of you listening, we'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think about the future of gaming? What changes do you anticipate? And how do you think those changes might affect you as a player? Share your thoughts on our social media channels, and let's continue the conversation. Until next time, keep on gaming.